Thank you. So this is presented by NAMI Urban Los Angeles. The presenters are the Department of Mental Health Office of Public Guardian, which is Marie Gallaloon, and NAMI Urban Los Angeles, myself, I'm Jim Farrell, and Gail Evangeletti, who I think all of you must know by now for sure, because she's the one that's guilty for all this to take place in the first place. So thank you for joining us, and let's move forward with the presentation. Next slide, please, Araceli. So also thank you to Maddie Cobbs, Harold Turner, and of course to Ssdi, who is behind the scenes today, keeping this all together and connected and flowing nicely. So thank you, Ssdi. Next slide. This again is the disclaimer that I brought up earlier, that what we share is we have learned along the way, seeking to give the greatest probability of successful recovery. We make a suggestion that you determine the direction you wish to pursue. We present the laws that should help guide your decisions. Most information presented pertains to Los Angeles County. So in this presentation today, there will be resources offered, and they really do pertain just to Los Angeles. However, all of the legal aspects of a conservatorship are the same throughout the entire state of California. Every county interprets them a little bit differently as they see it and as their attorneys understand it. But it is one law statewide, so if you're a conservator, doesn't matter where you are in the state of California. And today's information will be extremely pertinent for that. Next slide, please, Ssdi. So, Gail?
Is this Marie or, oh no, this
Gail?
is mine. Yeah, it's G for Gail. Okay. Marie cannot get onto the Zoom, so she is on the phone, and when her parts come up, she will be talking. So when I'm looking at who's supposed to talk on this one. All right, these are tips that are most helpful. Always, if you are the conservator, refer to yourself as the conservator. You're not mom, you're not dad. You will get greater respect, and it elevates you to a different position. If you say, well, this is his mom, nobody pays attention to you. But if you are his conservator, that's a whole new ball game. The other thing is take the free family-to-family class that NAMI offers. Fantastic class. It will empower you with a tremendous amount of knowledge, and my understanding, it has now been cut down to 8 weeks. You go one night a week or something, and you can do it on Zoom. You can sign up with any NAMI in the nation. NAMI Urban LA offers these classes, and they're excellent. And they're offered in different languages also. Another tip, keep a journal. Keep 2 journals. Keep one pertaining to the medications and your observations when the person's on medication. That's so vital to help the doctor to put the person on the correct medication. And we'll talk about medications later on. And keep another journal with everybody you speak to, including if you talk to Jim or me or anybody. Put down the person's name, their contact information, the date and time you spoke to them, and what they had to say. Now, if somebody's telling you something that doesn't make sense to you, just say, okay, let me get this right. Your last name is spelled Smith, Smith. Is that correct? And what you are telling me is this hospital, which is an LPS designated facility, does not do LPS conservatorships. Am I correct in understanding what you said? So validate what they say. The 4th thing is be sure to get involved. Your involvement will help you to get more information and understand a lot more of what's going on. Okay, next slide.
I want to add something to that,
Okay.
if I may. I think you should also keep a journal on all your contact, phone calls, and so forth with the department, well, Social Security. I am finding recently that they're just having a ball with me, boy. They're asking me for all kinds of stuff, and I've started for every letter that I have ever presented to them. I keep in a file. Every phone conversation, I make comments about what that phone conversation was about. And that way you're not going to get tripped up with them when they send additional letters to you asking for information. you'll know what you sent and what was said, and not be second guessing yourself. I think you'll find that very resourceful. I'm sorry, go ahead, Gail, next slide.
Oh, next slide. Marie, this is yours.
Okay. Can you guys hear me well?
Can y'all hear her?
She's on slide 6, and is she on speaker?
Hold on, I don't know. Speak on my phone. Wait a second, talk. Speaker. Oh boy.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can barely hear you. All of a sudden you went down. Wait. A lot better. Can y'all hear her?
Is she on speaker?
No, nobody, we're not hearing you at all. I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and go over this and then you tell me what you want me to add, Marie. Would that be okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. LPS conservatorship is the term used in California for involuntary mental health treatment. Other states use different terms, interdictions, conservatorships, guardianships. You don't want a guardianship because then you're responsible for everything that person does or doesn't do and their debts. So you don't want that, only LPS. It's named after the Latterman-Petrus short legislators in 1974. It was made into law. The laws are covered under the California Welfare and Institutions Code 5200. If you have insomnia, pick it up and start reading it. It'll knock you out. The laws are over 50 years old and they really don't reflect the current scientific research in treatment and recovery. Okay, Marie, you want to add anything?
Just to know that it's not LPS conservatorship. Once you get outside of California, it's different dates depending on where you are. So LPS is specific to California only.
Yeah, okay, she said, be sure to understand that LPS is specific to California only. And if a person leaves California, the conservatorship does not apply. And California does not tend to have reciprocity with other states. Along the East Coast, I find they have reciprocity for involuntary mental health treatment, but California doesn't tend to do that. All right, next slide. Forms, the booklet form, and we'll show you that in a minute. When you become the conservator, you're given a booklet. Now, we've been doing WebEx, so you might not get that booklet. If you don't, then get it off the internet. The website is down below. That booklet is very helpful for you as a conservator. It shows, like, if somebody has to reinstate their driver's license, it has a form for that. It talks about when you go to court and you reestablish the conservatorship for another year, it gives you the forms for that. It covers a lot of information. I would definitely download that book if you were not given it when you were in court. If you weren't in court, you have to download it. The title of the booklet is Helping Your Loved One, A Family Guide to Conservatorship and Involuntary Treatment. Marie, any other comments?
The only other comment that I had in the past, when we were downtown, we used to get families to walk in and we give them the book. We've moved. We're at 510 South Vermont. I mean, only they need to walk in to get this. We can also offer it to them.
Okay. We'll be going over later on the slide where the new courthouse is in Hollywood. And if you want to, you can walk into that courthouse and they'll give you the booklet too.
Okay.
All right, next slide. This is a copy of the booklet that you would have. The one that I have is the 5th edition, but they have more current ones now, don't they?
I think so.
Yeah, this is 2013, so I'm sure they've updated it. All right, and on the internet, it would be updated. All right, next slide. This is mine. The essence of the conservatorship is to mandate medication. Now, there's certain things that they take away temporarily, suspend from a person driving a car, entering contracts, and the right to shoot and possess a gun. But the enter the contracts and driving a car can be reinstated while you're under the conservatorship. The only thing that is not reinstated is mandating medication. And that's powerful because your loved one can't think if they don't have the medication to provide the chemicals so those neurons can connect to each other. So that is really important. If a person's compliant with medication, there really is no need for conservatorship. Next slide. The types of conservatorship, when you're in the courthouse, you have two types. One is of the person and one is of the estate. Most likely, you're pretty much always given it of the person. It is the doctor who will initiate the conservatorship of the person. And it's through the doctor that you do that. The doctor has nothing to do with the conservatorship of the estate. You can ask the public guardian to help you set up the conservatorship of the estate or the court. Now, it doesn't mean that they have $1 million and you have to control their money. Not at all. They could have debts, they could have student loans, they could have court cases, other things that apply that have to be dealt with. That's when you would ask for the conservatorship of the estate. And what I suggest to people, if you don't know what their debts are, then run a credit report. Credit Karma, you can do them for free. That's going to give you an idea what their debts are. And if there are a lot of debts, then you can ask the public guardian, if you're getting the conservatorship, let them know that you need it of the estate and what specific items need to be addressed. If you've gotten the conservatorship of the person and you go down the road and you find out, oh my goodness, they have all these debts and court cases, you can go back to the court and ask the court to give you the conservatorship of the estate. If it's just SSI money, SSDI money, a representative payee, that will take care of it. And that is the treating doctor writes, they have a form that they fill out, they give it to you, and you give it to the public or to the Social Security, and they will make you representative payee. So you will control their money. You open up a bank account in both their name and yours. It is reported as their income to the IRS, but only you have access to that money. And every year, Social Security will want to know where that money's gone. So you can't take that trip to Mexico and go sit on the beach and enjoy it. All right, next slide.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also add to that account, they should apply for authorized rep.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so they can do the application, the renewals, and everything else.
Wait, now, Marie's giving me some good information, and if y'all can't hear it, hold on one second. So when they get SSI, they get Medi-Cal, and we ask Medi-Cal to make them
Authorized rep.
an authorized representative.
Yeah, the way we do it as a public guardian, we're applying for Medi-Cal, for SSI, because it takes a while for SSI to be
Approved.
So we do the Medi-Cal application as well, so that way they'll have full coverage until the SSI kicks in. And to do that, you become the authorized rep with Medi-Cal.
Okay. When
You
you
do that with your letter of conservatorship.
okay, that's with the letters, but if you don't have a letter of conservatorship, can you still be an authorized rep?
You can, but you have to go through Medi-Cal's process.
Okay. And that's if they are not under the conservatorship.
Yeah.
Okay, if they're not under the conservatorship, you have to go through Medi-Cal's process and become an authorized representative so you can take care of all their Medi-Cal and get them Medi-Cal. That's good to know because before it used to be they had to sign off for Medi-Cal and they wouldn't because they weren't sick. Is that, okay, did I do that correctly?
You did.
Oh, yes. All right, next slide.
So on this slide, we're talking about who should be the conservator. There's options. One is that either the family member or somebody in the family or a relative could be a conservator, or you can assign it to the public guardian's office. And people often wonder, what are the pros and cons of being a conservator or letting the public guardian's office do that? So let's take the public guardian's office first. The pro is that you'd be able to place the person in a state-approved facility, and that there's less stress on the family member. It just goes without fail that when somebody is on a conservatorship and you're their payee, they're going to be hounding you unmercifully for you to buy them all sorts of things, maybe things that they shouldn't even have. And it's really hard when they're insistent. It's hard to say no, but you find yourself saying no, and then the stress levels go way up. So if the public guardian is handling all that, you have less stress as a family member. The negative would be that if the public guardian is the conservator, that there's less involvement with the recovery process. There's no control for medication, and work to establish working relationships with the public guardian. So you'd want to establish that. Now, Gail, maybe I'll have you embellish that a little bit about establishing the working relationship with the public guardian.
In Los Angeles, we are blessed because our public guardians are very, very helpful. You don't want to call a public guardian and talk for half an hour. Well, they're doing this and they're doing that, because they don't have the time. They have to go visit their clients, and they have a lot of paperwork that they have to write up. So emailing them is most helpful, because then they can answer your questions and get back with you. If you're respectful of the public guardian, they will work really hard with you, and they can pretty much give you a lot of information. Now, if your loved one says, I don't want you talking to my parents, their hands are sort of tied. But pertaining to the medication, you do lose the control of the medication. You can't work with the doctor on the medications, but keep that journal on medications, and try to find out as best you can what medications they are on, if you can. Now, if there's a problem where the doctors prescribe 8, 12 psychotropics, and that's happened before, you don't even know which one's working, and they're all over the place. Or if your loved one's sitting and drooling, or they're sleeping all the time, those medications are not doing them any good. So you can ask for a medication review from the courts, and they will do a medication review. The public guardian is kind of limited. They cannot override a doctor. So whereas for you can go above them and see what you can do. Marie, you want to add anything on that?
No, I pretty much agree, because we go along with what the treatment teams recommend. But I know there are times when the conservator may have concern, and we usually ask for a treatment team meeting, and they can also do that as the parent, as a conservator.
Oh, okay. Marie said if there's a concern for what the public guardian goes along with the treatment team, but if there's a concern, medications or anything like that, they can ask for a team meeting with the family and everybody to figure out what's going on and see if they can improve the situation. Now, the one thing is, you know your loved one better than anybody. So when they are functioning, barely functioning, and the doctor says that's the best you're going to get, and you know that person's smart, they've got a lot going for them, don't settle for that. Get a different medication that's going to be better for them. And sometimes you have to fight for these things, but the medication is a big thing that's going to catapult them to a higher level of recovery, really. Next slide. So
again, and should you be the conservator or not, the pro is that you have direct contact with the doctor. You can reject inappropriate treatment facilities, medications, and treatment places. When it comes to medications, you want to work with the doctor. If you just don't like some medication because you're having your own concerns about it or so forth, and you say, no, I don't want my son or my daughter to have this medication, the doctor could simply go to the court and say, Your Honor, I'm a licensed practicing MD, and I'm prescribing medications that this patient clearly needs, and the parent who is now conservator is getting in the way of treatment. and they don't have a valid reason as to why I should not present this medication to the client. And they will pull the parent in and just inform them that they're no longer their conservator. So you tactfully work with the doctor in a positive way and express to them, gosh, you know, doctor, we've tried this medications in the past and it wasn't really successful. And I've heard really good things about this other medication. What is your opinion about that? Could we possibly try it? And so you're being very diplomatic and you're wanting to work with the doctor in a respectful way. And it keeps you in a position of control, and yet at the same time you're being diplomatic. The negative side of being a conservator, as I mentioned before, is that the conservator manipulates you, and it's very frustrating. Another negativity is that the hospital will try to push you around and discharge the patient to a facility not appropriate for the appropriate level of treatment needed for recovery. You as the conservator have the right to, in advance of your conservatee being transferred to any other location, you have the legal right to go to that location, ask questions, find out if it's an appropriate place. For example, let's say that your conservatee has a co-occurring problem and the hospital is trying to discharge him out to a board and care or some other facility. And you go there and you find that across the street there's a pot house selling marijuana. Well, your loved one is co-occurring, and it's going to be an instant trigger. So you could come back and tell the hospital, no, that's not appropriate. You really can't send him there. There was a family here, as I mentioned yesterday, that had their loved one transferred to another hospital from one county to another, and it just so happened that conservator knew the downsides of that facility, treatment facilities, and knew that it was not appropriate. So they recontacted immediately the hospital that their loved one was in, and said, "Look, you've already shipped him out. He can't be there, and this is why he can't be there, and you need to bring him back immediately." And you know, you don't always have that kind of level of control, but the hospital bought into it, and you do, after all, have that legal right. And they did all that they could to accommodate him, and in fact, he was transferred back to the original hospital, where he went on for long-term placement in a proper setting. So just don't let them push you around. Or, as Gail said earlier, always use the word I'm John or Michael's conservator. You're not the dad, you're not the mom, you're the conservator, and I have certain legal rights, and we need to be on board with this. Next slide, please. So what about liability? There's a lot of concerns that I hear all the time from families that talk about their concerns that if they put somebody into a hospital or a treatment facility, or any doctor, MD or otherwise, that they are going to incur the expense for treatment if in fact maybe the Medicare or Medi-Cal that they're on or the private insurance that they're on doesn't fully cover the bill. So under the California Welfare and can't even talk today. The California Welfare and Institution Code 5358.1, you are not by law liable either civilly or criminally for anything the conservatee may or may not do. So let's say, for an example, it's in regards to a bill, or let's say that your conservatee may have co-occurring problems and used a drug of some nature and under that influence decompensated, tore up the board and care facility, maybe broke a window, broke a toilet, who knows what, punched holes in the wall. You are not liable financially for that. But my personal feelings are that you should absolutely do your best to cover it as long as it's within your budget. Work with them in that way. Because after all, your loved one's illness is for life. and they're living in this county, and all the board and cares talk to each other. So, you know, if they hear word of, boy, they did $1,000 worth of damage while their conservative was in my facility, and they never did pay me back for the damage, that word gets around all over town, because they do have a state level for board and cares that conducts meetings, and in those meetings, oftentimes, board and care operators are swapping stories. So, but just know that you're not financially responsible for the conservative's debts. If they have, let's say, rung up a credit card debt, you can contact the bank that is owed the debt, and you can negotiate with them to bring down the amount of that's owed, you know, pennies on the dollar a lot of times, and work with them that way, so they won't take it to court and fight and all that kind of thing. You try to negotiate with them and say, look, I'm certainly not liable for the debt, but we want to work with you. We would like to just negotiate on that price and get the price down and pay it off, so it doesn't impact on your loved one's life down the road. Next slide.
Okay, Mitch just asked a question, and it was on student debts. If they're under the conservatorship, I would apply on that student debt to have that debt waived, where after I hear it's 2 years now, where it used to be 3 years. If they can't work, they can't do anything, they will waive that debt. So the debt is gone. It's dismissed after 2 or 3 years.
100%?
The permanent disability.
100%?
Oh, hold on a second. That's under the permanent disability. Marie's talking to me. Permanent disability rule. What is that rule, Marie?
If you go on the U.S. Education's website, you can scroll down on the different.
Okay, hold on. If you go on the U.S. educational site, you can scroll down to.
There's a section that discusses ways of getting student loans discharged.
Okay, there's a section that discusses ways of getting student loans discharged.
And one of them is if the person is permanently disabled.
And one of them is if the person is permanently disabled. Is SMI considered permanently disabled?
It is, because we've applied for a few of our clients and their debts were discharged, and it does consider, I think, 2 or 3 years. I haven't been on the website in a while, but it has to be, the person has to be disabled for a few years, and then they'll consider it.
Okay, the person has to be disabled for 2 or 3 years, and then they'll consider totally waiving that student loan or dismissing it.
Correct. It's an application process.
It's an application process, and I know a doctor has to sign off on it. Did that answer your question, Mitch? Okay, I guess so. All right. Rights and responsibility of the LPS Conservator. The power to approve or disapprove all medications, treatment, and placement. And these are powerful. You don't have to worry about, what medications they're going to be, but read about them on the internet. If you have to, call the pharmaceutical company. They'll tell you a wealth of information on medications. But when you're doing the medications, the best rule to follow is that old scientific rule. Find one medication that's going to work at what amount, and then if you have to add another, you do. But if you start out with 3 or 4 psychotropics, you have no idea which one's working, and all of them come with side effects. And some medications tell you do not give if they're taking another medication, be it a psychotropic or a medical medications. So be sure you know medications. You don't have to be a doctor to do this. Just look up those medications and it'll give you a lot of information. Find one that's going to work. Now, this is my opinion, and I am not a doctor, but you have mental health problems and you have serious mental illness. Your loved one has a serious mental illness. So if you're giving them medications that are good for people with mental health problems, they're not going to do that much for a person with a serious mental illness. For instance, if I have a headache and you've got a migraine and I give you my headache medication, it's not going to phase your migraine. Some of the better medications, and I'm not recommending, but I'm saying research about them, are some of the newer ones. They have Vraylar, spelled with a V, Raylar. Another one is Caplyta, Caplyta. And Vega is one that I find, I would say I get probably 85 to 90% feedback that it really made a difference. That's INVEGA. Now, that is the same medication chemical composition as risperidol, except how it's delivered in the system. Risperidol goes to the cell and all the organelles in the cell. Remember your biology in 10th grade? You had all those little organelles you had to learn about. The Invega goes more directly to the nucleus, so you get more of an appropriate medication, you get more clarity of thinking, less side effects. But keep in mind, what medication works for one does not always work for another. You can have 5 people with identical symptoms, same everything. You give them all the same medication and one of them is disaster. So it's trial and error. There is no test that says, okay, you should give them this and you should give them that. They do have DNA tests that is supposed to say, don't give them this. But a lot of people have done that, and that one that it said don't give is the cure-all, So take everything with a grain of salt. All right, the placement. The county has, what's the name of that, the place that comes out and evaluates for where they go, Marie? No. This is for when they're under the conservatorship. ICD. Yeah, you can have the hospital contact ICD, and they come out and they evaluate your loved one. This is in Los Angeles. What would be the most appropriate treatment placement for a person to go? They usually give the conservator a list of 3 facilities. If the public guardian is the conservator, you can ask the public guardian who's handling your case, tell them that if they would like for you to go look at those facilities and give them your best judgment for which one would be most appropriate. You can go and do that. Finding the appropriate placement would be really very, very helpful. And I'll give you an example. We had one fella who the parents went to one place and they were packed in like sardines. And this person was like, you're in my space. You're 6 feet away, but you're in my space. That would have not cut it. Another one, the person was mute schizophrenic and didn't process information, but a brilliant person. And keep in mind, that brain is working. It's that frontal lobe that's got a little bit of a problem. So if they had put them in the place where it was basically for very low functioning people, it would have freaked them out. You can't do that. So, and the medications, if you have mute schizophrenia, with the right medications, they will start to talk again and they can get their lives back. So your treatment, your placement, and your medications are all very, very important. All right. Any comments, Marie or Jim?
No.
Okay, next slide.
Gail, can I say one thing? The Invega also comes in shots, which for patients without insight is terrific. My son has no insight, and there's a 1 month and a 3 month shot. So, because my son won't take any meds orally.
Right.
What was the name of the agency that you said that comes out to evaluate?
ICD, Intensive Care Division.
ICD, okay.
Online, it's still called CRM, Countywide Resource Management.
Okay, hold on. If you want to look them up online, they're still called CRM, Countywide Resource Management. So if you look under DMH, look under CRM, but they had changed the name to ICD. DMH is always changing names and phone numbers to confuse us. Confucius say you're going to be confused. All right. Conservators have the right to speak directly with the doctor. Now you have to be respectful of the doctor's time. Write down your questions that you have, the points that you're trying to make, and stick to that. Don't call and start going on, well, he was doing this and he was doing that. Be straight to the point when you're talking with the doctor. The doctor probably has anywhere from 50 to 100 patients. They don't have time to talk with you all the time. Always be considerate of the other person. But with that said, your loved one is what you're fighting for to get them on the road to recovery. So whatever it takes, you do what it takes to get them on the road to recovery. But you want to keep those lines of communication open to the doctor. Apply for SSI, SSDI if they have a work history, Medi-Cal, and Medicare. If you have private insurance, you can keep your private insurance, and you can also have Medi-Cal and Medicare all at the same time. Now, if you need the person to be in a program, and we talked about this yesterday, but I didn't add this. If they need to be in a full service partnership or AOT or something, and your private insurance does not have a program equivalent, they have to pay for those programs. And if they don't, then you can call Catherine Toprinsky, and she will help you to get that private insurance to pay for that. Okay, Jim or Marie, comments? Nope. Next slide.
This is mine. CalAble is an interesting phenomenon, primarily as a payee for your conservatee. You cannot, give your payee money out of your pocket without that impacting on how much he receives. I think, for every dollar you provide to him or her, there's a reduction, I think, of 50 cents in what they receive. So if you're in a position where you, well, I'll give you a perfect example. There was a case where a family had found a board and care for their loved one, but it was quite expensive. It was a very nice, and it was a new board and care that just had sprouted wings, you might say, and it was very expensive. So the parent was having to supplement the money that SSI was providing, and of course, it didn't leave a lot of money for other necessities as well. So the workaround was that they were able to open up a CalAble account. And when you put your money into, you as a parent, or even your conservative, can put money into that CalAble account. And they, as CalAble works with Social Security, CalAble will allow you then to, from that account, pay for things such as rent, board and cares, what have you, without any penalties involved. So it's really interesting. The real focus of CalAble, of course, is to actually deposit ongoing funding to build up monies. And so the funding that is provided can either be secure to where it won't gain any interest, or it can go to different levels of risk all the way up to the stock market. So it's your choice. But that's really the purpose of it, and it's something that would work in conjunction with a special needs trust, so that the fiduciary trustee could draw from that and help pay for things without, again, jeopardizing his SSI or SSA funds that are received. So it's interesting. Take a look at it. It's calable.ca.gov, or if you don't get this written down in time, just Google CalAble. It's really well put together as a website, and they have a lot of different videos that explains what they do, the services, and what's involved. So have a look at that and see if that's something that might work for you. Next slide. Okay. So here are some areas, again, you can use it for education, housing, transportation, employment. If you need to buy a laptop computer, let's say that they decide they want to take some courses at a university and they need a laptop, you could use that money that you've been putting in there to buy them whatever they need, whether it's a computer or otherwise. Next slide.
Okay, the LPS conservatorship of the estate. When you have the conservatorship of the estate, you can negotiate debts. And Jim had mentioned like 25 cents on the dollar, 10 cents on the dollar. Or if they're under the conservatorship and you don't want to pay the debt because they're not reasonable, you don't have to. It will probably go to, they'll do a judgment, but that judgment comes off their credit report after 3 years. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. You can handle criminal court cases, which are very helpful, and you can acquire a waiver for school loans, which we had discussed earlier, and that's an important thing to do. You can cancel all credit cards. That's supposed to be cards, not cars, but you can cancel any of that stuff and get rid of all of their credit cards. So there's a lot that you can do to help them get back on their feet. You do not pay their debts off. Okay, next slide. Oh, hold on, we got a statement, hold on. Yes, go ahead.
Going back to the criminal court cases, I just always want the conservator to let the public defender or the judge know that their loved one is LPS conserved. This will help their case along very well, rather than, sending their loved one to jail. You can just, face further treatment.
Okay.
Always let the court or public defender know that their loved one is LPS conserved and there's a criminal case involved.
Okay, Marie said, on the criminal court cases, be sure the public defender knows that they are under the LPS conservatorship, and it will help their case to move along. But the other thing, they can also get jail diversion. And if they do the jail diversion, which might take, a year, whatever the case is set up, because there are a lot of different programs under the jail diversion, at the end of that, most likely their case will be totally dismissed. So that's another way to go. But I like the conservatorship when they're under a jail diversion. It's like the insurance policy that keeps them on the medications. All right. Does that sound right? Okay. Next slide. Marie, it's yours. Okay. Conservator must have the court approval for all invasive medical treatment. And you must inform the court of all medical problems. When you get the conservatorship, what you have to do is, if they have diabetes, heart problems, anything that needs to be dealt with, cancer, let the court know what the problems are. And the court will give you approval to deal with certain medical problems. If a problem comes up at the last minute, you have to go to court to get invasive medical treatment approved. For instance, something simple like a root canal. You need court approval for that. Now, you can pretty much get that within a day or two. You can get if you call and you can get that taken care of. When you're at the court, you can ask the judge to assign you an attorney. So if you have any questions during the year, you can call the attorney and ask them. Or you can call the attorney and say, hey, we've got an impacted tooth, and they'll take care of it. Now, if you have something like an emergency appendicitis, you don't have to have court approval. They're just going to do it quick. Am I correct, Marie?
Correct.
Yeah, they'll do it. They'll do it quickly, but notify the court afterwards this had taken place. Okay.
Always ask for power 12 for whatever ailment or anything that their loved one may need medical attention for.
Okay, she said ask for power 12 when you're getting the conservatorship for any medical problems that you may have to handle, so that you have that power in place. Okay? All right, next slide. Medical emergency. All non-emergency invasive procedures must be approved by Department 103. It used to be called Department 95, but it's 103 now. No experimental treatment is permitted. And request all medical issues to be approved by Department 103. Anything else?
No.
No. Okay. Next slide.
All right, I'll take that. I see somebody else in the chat wanted to know what Power 12 was, because I don't know what that is. Could Marie tell us what Power 12 is?
Yeah, Power 12 is the authority from the court to handle whatever medical problems the person has. So when you're in court, that's the power that the judge is marking off and saying you have the power for having their cancer treated, their heart problems, diabetes, whatever. Did I do that correctly?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So let's look at conservatorship of the estate. If you're a conservator of the estate, you can handle court cases, you can pay and negotiate debts, you can request student loans to be discharged, and you can ask the court to appoint you to an attorney should you have questions and need help during the year. Next slide.
You want to? Hold on a second. May I just say something? Alexander's here and he just wants to say hi because usually he's doing this situation with us. You want to come say hi?
You guys want me to say hi?
Yeah, quick, because we need to move along.
Oh, I don't see it. Well, I don't want anybody saying hi.
Hi, Alexander.
Usually I'm doing a presentation too with everyone.
But he was doing H&R Block for a while, so that was out of the question. It was too much. So, but next time, okay?
It was so close to the deadline Monday last, yeah.
Yeah, he needed a break, a big break. Okay.
Good to
Thank
see you,
you.
Alexander.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.
Marie said bye too. Okay. Conservatorship has direct contact with the treating doctor. That's under that California Welfare and Institutions Code 5328.1. If you have problems and a treating doctor is refusing to work with you or talk with you, call Linda Stone Abrams, that's her number, and she will inform that doctor. They have to talk to you. Sometimes when your loved one goes to a treatment facility, this is really important. You're checking them into a treatment facility and they have you sign papers as the conservator, giving them the right to treat, medicate, whatever, everything. Translated to that treatment facility is you've signed over your conservatorship rights to them. They don't have to bother with you anymore. That is not the case. On that contract that you're signing, it is a wise thing to handwrite that any change in medication, treatment, or placement must have your expressed written permission. And that's, you're retaining your right as a conservator. You're giving them the right to treat, but you're saying, I am still the conservator. And that's an important thing to do. A lot of people just sign the paper and then the treatment facility will say they don't contact you for anything. Your person goes AWOL. They don't even contact you. And that is very upsetting. I mean, what's the sense of having the conservatorship if you don't know what's going on? So handwrite that statement. Any change in treatment, placement, and medication must have your express written permission.
So add to that, Gail, is
Yes.
just real brief. I love Pentel pens, and they have from 0.07 down to a 0.03. And that enables you to write in between the lines of these agreements that you're signing when you're, as Gail said, you're going in and you're giving your permission for them to treat. And so if you have a fine point pen, you can just start writing away and they'll look at you like, what is he doing? What is he writing? You're not relinquishing your conservatorship rights, and that they have to approve everything through you prior. So just take a real fine point pen with you when you go to those types of meetings, to any medical center or treatment center. It's just a tip.
Good tip. Okay. Pun on words. All right. Marie, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No.
Okay. Next slide. Okay. Criminal court cases. When your loved one has a criminal court case, ask the public defender to request that DMH court linkage program, that's the number for them, to be involved in the case. The court linkage program is really good. It's with Department of Mental Health. What they do is they can connect your loved one to a treatment program, a facility, the jail diversion program. They're very, very helpful. Each courthouse has one, most of them anyway, has one person that handles the court linkage for that courthouse. And that's the courthouse that they deal with all the cases there. So you can call that number. Who is the person that's at airport court? They'll tell you, they'll give you the phone number. Contact that person and give that information to the public defender. And that's most helpful. Even if your loved one is not under the LPS and you have criminal court cases, the public defender can still request the court linkage program be involved in the case. They have like a misdemeanor and a felony program where they can kind of work with the jail diversion programs on these. So, and they can put them in the state hospital, in a county IMD, whatever treatment facility they need, they can help out with. Now, for placement, remember we said that you have the right to approve or disapprove treatment, placement, and medication. When it's through the criminal court, you take a second seat to that placement. The court states where your loved one's going to go. And many times it's a state hospital. And some of those state hospitals, don't freak out, oh my gosh, they're going to do terrible things to them. A lot of them are pretty darn good. And people get back on the road to recovery and they do very well at a lot of these facilities. They have like music, they have poetry, they have educational classes, activities, basketball, football. You name it, they have a lot of activities at these facilities. Marie, do you want to add anything?
Just really quickly, if they're not able to find the number to the court linkage or for the right person, they also can go on LA County Superior Court and look at every courtroom, and they'll be a court clerk's number that they can call directly.
Okay, Marie said if you can't find the number for that court linkage program, go on Superior Court under Resources, Marie.
Look for the court clerk.
Look for the court clerk for that court, and they will tell you who handles the cases for that courthouse.
Exactly.
Okay? All right, next slide.
So let's look at the ways that we can, after your loved one comes out of the hospital or a jail program of some nature, and you're looking for possible treatment programs, what sort of programs are out there and how do you approach them? Certainly, or they're just simply decompensated even for the first time, and they've been, let's say, are at this for a while, and you've come to a realization that they might need to be on a conservatorship. So that is certainly one approach. We can get them on a conservatorship, as Gail mentioned earlier. While they're on the conservatorship, they don't have the legal right to refuse medications. And if they were to stop taking medications and decompensate, you have the right to have them hospitalized and put them into an involuntary hospital. The only time that you can force somebody onto medications is when they're in an involuntary designated hospital. So this way they're put into the hospital, they're put back onto their medications and restabilized, getting their life back on track. The other approach sometimes then may not be quite as radical, you might say, is AOT, assisted outpatient treatment. If you're going to qualify for conservatorship, you really are not going to have LPS and conservatorship and AOT. You're either going to qualify for one or the other. if they're not quite ill enough that they really would meet the criteria of a conservatorship, then AOT would certainly be an appropriate way to move forward with. Los Angeles and Orange County have some very excellent AOT programs. They will get very involved with your loved ones. Some challenges along the way, but nonetheless, it's something that is another approach for treatment for your loved one. Another approach would be an FSP, which is a full service program or partnership. And basically that is a program that prior to COVID, I know here in Orange County, we had facilities where your loved one could go in during the day. There was counseling, there were programs. One in particular had a co-occurring treatment program that they offered as well. And that involved personal drug testing. Then during the COVID here in Orange County, we had individuals from the FSP actually go out to the facilities and meet with them, encourage them, counsel with them, keeping them off of drugs, street drugs, and as well do the random testing, taking urine tests and so forth. So there are some very excellent ways that you can go and programs that are out there that you can take advantage of. Next slide, please.
And I'd just like to add one thing on the AOT.
Sure.
A lot of people call, and I suggest that they, apply for AOT. That history, symptoms, and gravely disabled information that you got yesterday is very helpful when you're applying for AOT. It gets you in the program. And basically, because they can write up a better case. And they will help you if you have to get your loved one in the hospital. They're pretty good about helping with that. If they need an LPS conservatorship because they're not going to be compliant and work with the program, they will help to encourage the treating doctor to initiate the LPS conservatorship. They will even go to court and tell the court, hey, our program didn't work. They need to be under the LPS conservatorship. Now, once that gavel comes down and an LPS is granted, AOT is out of the picture. You cannot have LPS and AOT at the same time. Okay. Marie, anything? Hold on, Marie wants to add one. Go ahead.
Please.
They can take them to their appointments, see the psychiatrist, if you have problems during, the appointment, they can assist you. The only thing is, FSP mostly serve Medi-Cal connected clients, but it's really a great, support in the community.
Okay. Marie said if you have a loved one living with you at home or really anywhere, be sure to link them with a full service partnership. It's most helpful. And they can help you to fill out the forms. Even if they're under a conservatorship, they can have a full service partnership. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, right. If they're under the LPS, they can be under the full service partnership, and they will help you with the renewal process for the LPS. So that they cannot be under AOT, just under full service partnership. Okay? Next slide.
Okay, on this one, I'm sorry, I didn't see the slide shift. I just looked away, so you snuck up. When it comes to medications, it kind of goes back to what was discussed earlier about keeping a journal. And I really credit, Gail for that. Is that you should really know all the medications that your loved one's on. Let's say that you're looking at the medications and you're not quite sure, about a certain medication. What is it really being prescribed for? Is this the correct dosage? Is it too high? Is it too low? When is it best to take it? Night and day? I don't know. Just go to drugs.com, either on the internet or an app. The app is also called drugs.com, and they will tell you any and everything you possibly ever wanted to know about your medications. Also, if you have a question about your medications, contact the manufacturer. They would be more than happy to tell you about their medications and side effects and dosages and all of those kinds of things. And then, compile all that information. I actually would create a chart on every medication, again, like side effects, dosages, and when to take it and so forth. And it built your own knowledge bank. As well, what you're doing is you're keeping an ongoing record of medications over time. And down the road, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, you may come across a situation where your doctor's wanting to prescribe a medication. And if you can go back and go, doctor, we tried that medication, gosh, that was 15 years ago, but here's the side effects we had from that were not working well for my loved ones. So keep a journal on your medications. Use drug.coms about the medications. Contact the pharmacist if you have to. Discuss it with your doctor as a conservator, and do the research on your medications that way. So as Gail always says, your goal is to find the best medication for clarity of mind with the least side effects. You want to add to that, Gail?
No, I think you did an awesome job.
Thank you. Next slide. Guideline for medications. Use the scientific method. You change one variable at a time. If you have 4 psychotropics, which I God forbid if you did, all being prescribed at the same time, you're not going to know which one's doing the job. And then you have all those other side effects along with it. So if your doctor is prescribing more than one psychotropic, you might want to look up the medications, as I've said, maybe call the pharmacy and ask them about that as well, and just educate yourself about that and so forth. It's really hard to know what's working, and you as a conservator really have that obligation to keep track of the meds and find out which ones are working the best. So work with your doctor in that way and just say, doctor, I would like to try to keep them on one psychotropic at a time. That way we know what's working and not working, and then we can just change one variable at a time and know what's working and what's not. So the journal is everything. Keep track of all your medications. Next slide.
Wait, I just want to add, when it comes to medications, don't settle. Don't say, oh, well, the doctors will say, well, that's the best he's ever going to be. Don't buy into that. I will guarantee you that your loved one can get on the road and do so much better if you can find a medication that works best for him. So your knowledge of the medications, you don't have to know all that chemical composition and things like that. But to keep that journal and to know how your loved one's going to be doing. If they're sitting around and they're not motivated, they're not happy, don't do that to them. Work to get them right medications and work with them. A lot of times you can tell them, look, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be trying to find a good medication that you're going to like, but I need your help and you need my help too. So what do you think if we study some of these meds and then we'll try a little bit, because it's just trial and error. And if you tell me what you're feeling and I'll tell you what I'm observing. And working together as a team, a lot of times the people that don't buy into their illness, they're not sick, you are, I mean, we've all heard that, will tend to come around and work really hard to get good medications that help. Okay.
Well, let me also add that if you're really hitting the wall with your doctor, your conservative doctor, and you just are not at all satisfied because the doctor's not willing to work with you, you can always change doctors. Find a doctor that will work with you. You work together as a team.
Let me just add something. Jim told me a story the other day about, it's what, a physician assistant, Jim, or?
Oh, well, first of all, what a lot of people don't know is that here in the state of California, the grand majority, and I mean almost all of the psychiatrists that are licensed in the state of California are 65 years of age or older. And they're all soon to retire. So now what they've done is they're starting to rely more on the services of the nurse practitioners. And the nurse practitioners now have there's been a change in the law that allows the nurse practitioners to prescribe medications without being under the license of a medical doctor. They can prescribe on their own. And one of the families that I was dealing with had a nurse practitioner that just absolutely would not change the medication. It took her almost a year to bump it up all over 5 milligrams. And in the interim, the conservatee kept relapsing and going into the hospital. And the conservator was contacting the nurse practitioner and saying, look, this just isn't working. So we have some challenges ahead of us. I'm sure some very excellent nurse practitioners out in the field. It's not my position to criticize them and what they do. There's some really sharp individuals out there. But again, if you're not making headway with your nurse practitioner, find a different one. If you're going through, let's say, one of the FSPs and they are providing the nurse practitioners and it's not working, then you have the right to go out into private practice and find a doctor or a private nurse practitioner that will work with you. And again, the team is what it's all about.
That goes for therapists too. Some people really connect with their therapist, and some it's like oil and water. So you really, if the therapist isn't working out, get another therapist. But when they're under the conservatorship, that's your time to do whatever you can to get them on the road to recovery. The better they feel, the happier you're going to be.
That's true. So I guess I'm going to be covering the slide on formulary for medications, and Gail has so much more to add. So I'm inviting her to join me on this. But primarily, if let's say you have heard about a remarkable medication out there, I won't mention any names, but somebody oftentimes brings up this medication called Vraylar and how it has been reportedly working so well for so many other people in their conservatees. And it's that, for example, is something that's not covered under Medicare. So what you can do is ask your doctor to, you can request them to write what's called a formulary. And that doctor can request a new medication. So that doctor could write a formulary and saying that it's his opinion that this would be the best medication for your conservatee, that they're not responding well to the other medications that they have been trying. Also, you can ask the treating doctor if they have free samples to try a new medication out. And also it says seek medications that help with serious mental illness. So obviously we need to find the right medication that's appropriate for the need. And don't, as Gail said, don't just settle for, okay, you go ahead and prescribe and I'll just go along with what you say. You don't settle for that. You want your loved one back to their old self. You want them to do the best they can be. So if you're not making good progress and good headway, these are some of the options and choices you can pursue. And again, you can always replace the doctor or the nurse practitioners in that process. Okay.
The only thing that I would add,
Please.
if you want your loved one to try a new medication and you feel it's going to be good, don't tell the doctor, okay, you're going to give them this, because the doctor will tell you to take a hike. You can say to the doctor, look, I've heard about this medicine. I've been reading about it and read about it. What do you think if we try a little bit? Do you have free samples? If he says no, then say, okay, what I could do is call the pharmaceutical company and see if they can get a pharmaceutical rep to bring you some. So you're trying them for free for a little bit. If it works, then that doctor can write the formulary. The formulary is not a big deal. The doctor's going to make it sound like, oh, he's got to do pages and pages. It's one page, and it just says, we've tried this, this, and this. We'd like to try this, and Medi-Cal almost all the time approves it. So, I mean, sometimes they'll let you think that they have to do all this work, and they really don't. Okay, next slide. Oh, hold on, Marie wants to add something. Hold on, go ahead.
Going back to Medi-Cal approval, even if Medi-Cal doesn't approve, you always have the right to appeal that decision.
Okay.
As far as medication goes.
Okay, she said as far as medication goes, if Medi-Cal does not approve the formulary, you have a right to appeal that decision. And do they pretty much approve it after the appeal?
Yes, but we
Yes.
take it all the way to like hearing, so yeah.
Oh,
Especially if it's necessary and then that's what's working for the client, we do, yeah.
Marie says if they have to take it all the way to a live hearing, they will, and they get the approval. If it's working for the individual, they'll do that, okay? All right.
So can you ask Marie, does the Public Guardian's Office assist in that? Or any agency assist in that if you're the private conservator? I would.
Did you hear that?
Yes, what usually happens is the pharmacy will call us and tell us that it wasn't approved, and we will sign off on the appeal document.
For the private conservator?
Oh, the private conservator can do the same.
Oh, okay.
Usually, you get a notice from the pharmacy first, but you have to sign off on the documents for them to file the appeal.
Okay, it's the pharmacy that will send you the information and saying that this was turned down, and you just sign the documents for them to file the appeal. It's a pharmaceutical company that will file the appeal for you?
Oh.
Yes,
Take it to state hearing ourselves.
yeah, and you can go all the way up to the state hearing. And the public guardian will go all the way to the state hearing. So, and you can do it too, as a private conservator. Okay.
Hey.
Thank you, Marie. You've given us some good information. Okay, this one's yours. Placing conservative in treatment facility. The ICD, Intensive Care Division of DMH, evaluates and suggests where the person should be placed. We've kind of gone over this, tour every facility and ask a lot of questions. And one question a lot of people don't ask is sexual relationships. You don't want to be having a little baby coming out of one of these facilities. So ask how they handle that. As a conservator, by law, your request for placement facilities must be honored as best as possible. If you're asking for Betty Ford, as long as you're willing to pay for it, no problem. But if you're asking for the county to pay for it, a big problem. It is not going to happen. And Jim had mentioned, like, if they're going to a board and care, sometimes a board and care will charge more than what SSI approves. If that's the case, you can pay the difference if you want to, but do it through Medi-Cal, through CalAble, so that they don't deduct your SSI. Otherwise, they'll deduct it, then you have to pay more, and it becomes ridiculous. Okay, and be sure to write on every contract for any treatment facility that your expressed written permission must be given for any change in medication, treatment, and placement. Anything to add, Marie?
No.
No. Jim?
No, you nailed it.
Hold on. She's adding. Wait. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that we do have a new facility, but it's all the way down in California. It's an IND, what is the name of that place? California Psychiatric Transitions. And our clients seem to be getting beds faster there because it's new and they do have the bed. So I don't know how the private conservators feel about having their loved ones that far in Central California, but oftentimes it's the first available bed.
Okay, where is this in California?
Delhi, DELHI.
Okay, Delhi. Y'all can look that up on the map because I certainly have to. Marie said we have a new IMD treatment facility up in Delhi, and we can get people there much faster. They're not going to be very close to where you are, so you might have to take, like, every other week, go take a nice little holiday and go visit them. Are they getting success for recovery?
Well, they're so new. They're just starting. It's been like within the last year or so. And they went online during the pandemic. So we're just, starting to see where they are. But they usually take a lot of our harder to place clients as well. California Psychiatric Transition.
It's called California Psychiatric Transition Facility. So you can look that up. These IMDs should be keeping records of their successful recoveries. They really should. So, but anyway, that's a new IMD. How many beds?
That I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
But that's all right. Yeah, if your loved one is in the hospital for a long period of time, look that one up. If it's new, it might be pretty good because sometimes new facilities are trying to prove themselves. So they tend to go out of the way to help. Once they've established, they get away with murder. Well, maybe not real murder, but I should have used better choice of words. All right. Next. This one's yours. Placement and treatment via the hospital. The hospital requests intensive care division to evaluate the conservator. The conservatee or the person can only be transferred from a lockdown facility to another lockdown facility. And we've had people who have been in the hospital. You have a private conservator and they don't know a whole lot sometimes. And the hospital will say, well, look, they're on the waiting list for an IMD. So take them home. When the IMD becomes available, then we'll send them there. That's not true. Once you take them out of the lockdown hospital, they cannot go to the IMD, which is a lockdown. You have to go from lockdown to lockdown. So you have to be cautious when people tell you things because they will do that to get them out of their hospital. So keep in mind, a jail and a hospital are locked down and they can take them to IMDs, which are lockdowns. Now, the IMDs are locked down initially. As the person gets on the road to recovery, they will give them permission to go out for 4 hours a day, 8 hours a day, whatever. And I can tell you that I had a situation where, actually it was my own, I could take my son out for 4 hours. And after 2 hours, it was return to sender. Y'all can have him. I don't want him. Within 3 months, he was spending 3 nights a week with us at home, and we loved it, hated to take him back. He improved that much. Now, when they're in the hospital, that is the time to work to find out the best medication for the person and work hard with that doctor to find the best medications. Be very PC because doctors feel like they're gods and you don't know what you're talking about. So sometimes a good thing to say is, doctor, I was reading about such and such. It looks like it might be a good one. What do you think if we try a little bit of this? And what I'll do is I'll keep a record of what I observe and let you know. Doctors are inclined to work with you. They like that. So that's something you can do. But keep in mind, an Institute for Mental Disease, the IMD, is not a permanent lockdown. They have activities where they take them out. And you can take them out if you're the conservator when they're ready. And they'll let you know, and you'll know too. Okay? Now, as a person improves in the hospital, if they're getting on the right medication and they're doing well and they're no longer flight risk, they might be able to skip the IMD and go to like enhanced residential housing, which is a secure type facility, where they have to check in and check out and that sort of thing. Sometimes they can even skip that and go to a board and care. Now, a lot of people want to come back and live at home. I'm not a strong proponent of that because many times your loved one is like when they go away to college, they can handle everything in college. They come home, hey, Mom, there's my dirty clothes in the laundry and when's dinner? But when they were at school, they handled it all. It's the same thing with a person with a mental illness. When you bring them home, oh my gosh, they're doing so good. All of a sudden, it's like you're doing everything for them. They're not doing it themselves. And they're starting to deteriorate in terms of just sitting back and letting you handle all the problems. And you don't really want that. You're not going to be there forever. So if you can get them into a treatment, not a treatment facility, but a facility that will work with them like a board and care or whatever, that will help them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. Now, that's just my opinion, but whatever we suggest to you, you are in the moment and you make the decision. You know your loved one the best. And be it a right or wrong decision, if it turns out you don't feel it was the best decision, don't beat yourself up. You know, blame it on your loved one, because when they were born, they didn't have the tag with instructions on their toe when they were born. So they left them in the womb. So it's their fault, not yours. Just go back to the drawing board and try again. Marie, you want to add anything? No. Jim? Okay, next slide. Oh, you again, Marie. Treatment and placement via the jail. Generally, it will be in a state hospital, Patton, Metropolitan, and what's the third one they have up north, I think? Tuscadera or something like that.
They have Tuscadera, they have Napa.
Napa and a Tuscadera. But Patton, I hear really good things about it. They have activities, they teach them things. Metropolitan, the same thing. And you can definitely go visit your loved one in the state hospital. They're not like what they used to be years ago when they were horrible. And they do get them on the road to recovery. Do you want to add anything, Marie?
Exactly what you said. You know, the ultimate goal at the state hospital is to get the clients to a lower level of care.
Okay.
There indefinitely.
Okay, she said at the state hospital, the ultimate goal is to get them for a lower level of care, not to hold them in the hospital forever. Jim?
No, that's accurate.
Okay.
And as well, it can go the other way. It can be if they're in a lower level of care but need to go into the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
You can go up in there, but then, as you say, they try to stabilize and then bring them back down again.
Okay. All right, next slide. Normal movement through treatment facilities. We kind of almost really did this already. The IMD from the hospital or the jail to an IMD or state hospital to residential housing. I mean, you can skip. You can go back and forth, except you cannot go from the lower ones to the IMD. You have to go via the hospital or the jail. A board and care. The conservatee, I think we covered all this, may skip a facility and go to a less restrictive facility. They can even they can be under the conservatorship and go to their own apartment if they can handle that. Okay, next slide. Yeah, oh, hold on, got a comment. Go ahead.
I don't think we ever talk about too much, but if the client is connected with people should be the conversation, because most times, in most cases, they'll be playing for placement, be it at the IMD or independent housing or one-on-one with an attendant.
Okay, Marie brought up a good statement, and I forgot about that. If a person's ill before they were 18 years old, they are eligible for, what was that? Regional Center. And you can apply for that. And Regional Center is very good on treatment, and they can help them to get into an apartment, a treatment facility, all sorts of things. They have a lot of great resources. So if you have proof that your loved one was ill before they were 18, and even if it's not mental illness, if it's autism or anything at all like that, they are eligible for Regional Center, and that is a good resource to look into. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next, Jim? No?
No, we're good.
Okay, next slide. Okay, you can request the court remove you as a conservator, or the doctor can request that you be removed as a conservator. And Jim talked about that earlier. You must be reasonable. If you are not, the doctor will go to court and ask that you be removed. But likewise, if the doctor's not being reasonable, keep your journal. And if they're in the hospital, you can't really request to change a doctor's. But if they're under a program, you can definitely change doctors. So you want to be able to work together. Your goal is for your loved one. And people are not going to be perfect. Their clients aren't perfect. So you do your best to work to get the goal that you want, which is the recovery of your loved one. Okay, anybody want to add? No? All right, next.
So let's talk about what happens when somebody is actually conserved in regards to their right to drive a car and sign contracts and so forth. The conservatorship is for a period of 1 year. And in that 1 year, they will not have the right to drive a car. Their license will be taken from them. They cannot sign or enter into any sort of a contract. And you, as the conservator, will determine where they're going to live. That said, let's say that as the year progresses, or it's shifted over to the second year and you've renewed it, that your loved one is really stabilizing, they're doing well, you can actually approach the courts and ask for their driving privileges to be reinstated. And I'm not sure, but I think they can also have their right to enter contracts reinstated. But more permanent restrictions for the conservatee is they lose the right to shoot and possess guns. So I don't believe that's ever reinstated if they're on a conservatorship.
Yeah,
So,
that right to shoot and possess guns, that's state, and I believe there's a federal on it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Marie. Yeah, and I had an attorney call me a couple days ago. He has been hired to help the conservatee to get the right to shoot and possess guns. I said, I hope you lose. So he's a good attorney, he really is, but I don't think he's going to try hard to get that one through. And by the way, the right to drive a car, the public guardian, if they're under the public guardian, they will not go out of their way to have them drive a car because that's a responsibility. It's not on them, but they don't want to do that. And what about the right to enter contracts? Can they do that? Because sometimes you have to get a job. Can they? Yeah, Marie, can you hear me?
You kind of called it out, but if you can hear me, it depends on what you asked for at the initial hearing.
Okay, the right to enter contracts.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it depends on how much you asked for at the initial hearing.
Oh, okay. At the initial hearing, if the right to enter contracts is not then marked, then they can still enter contracts. Is that correct? If they still allow them to enter contracts, then that goes forward. Marie, can you hear me? Oh, I think I lost her. She'll call back. Okay, next slide.
there we go.
Marie? Marie?
Sorry about that. Wait a minute.
That's okay. It's a much better anyway.
Okay.
The right to enter contracts. If they don't check that they cannot enter contracts, then they can continue to enter contracts. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did y'all hear that? They can continue to enter contracts if that was not taken away at the court hearing.
And see, we like to ask for it to be taken away so that our conservancies don't apply for credit cards.
Yes.
Conservancies buy cars, and that's how business should be.
Yeah.
Our letter that shows that they cannot go into contract, then whoever gave them the credit has to reverse it.
Okay, Marie said, as a public guardian, they like the right to enter contracts to be taken away because she's had people go out and buy cars, get a lot of credit cards, that sort of thing. But with their letter that they're under a conservatorship, they have to reverse it. And so that protects them. And return the car, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah, return the car. Okay. Reinstating the rights of the conservatorship. Go ahead, Jim.
All right, so you're going to go through this process of reestablishing the rights to drive a car. So the conservator simply writes a letter to the doctor stating that they feel that their conservatee should be able to regain that right to drive because they're so stable and doing so remarkably well. So the doctor then, if he concurs, then he would fill out the form for the conservatee to drive, and he would submit it to the court. The court approves the right to drive, and the Department of Motor Vehicle then evaluates the conservatee and can also and will approve the right to drive. When it comes to the right to enter contracts, the conservator can request the court to reinstate the right to enter into the contracts. And as Gail had just talked about, that's something that you would approach in a way that we've just described beforehand here. Okay. Next slide. It's for Marie.
Marie, it's you. It's the Department of Motor Vehicle Notification. This is the one that you submit to the department. It's in that booklet. Okay, you submit this and you're asking that the loved one can drive again. And usually you need a doctor's notice and then the court approves it. Then it goes to the DMH, and DMH does a safety check with you. They just interview the person, and then they tend to give them back the right to drive the car. Is there anything you want to add?
Only at the end of the conservatorship, we usually send handwritten letters also stating that conservatorship is over and they can renew their rights to drive.
Okay, she said at the end of the conservatorship, usually DMH is sent a notice stating that the conservatorship is over and they can renew their right to drive the car. Okay, next slide. This is yours too, Marie. We were hoping you were going to be on this one. This is for the reinstatement, the petition for reappointment of conservator. And in the booklet, I just took a little picture of that top. There are like 3 or 4 pages. It gives you the list of exactly what you need to do. It has the forms, everything. So look in that booklet. If you don't have that booklet, go to the website and print it. Okay? Do you have anything you want to add? Oh, I know. When you're doing the reappointment for conservatorship, usually you're sent the packet early, but many times you are not. So if they don't send it to you, you can't go to court on the day that's expired and said, but I didn't get it. They really don't care. It is incumbent on you to start the petition for reappointment early. You can call the public guardian, is that correct, Marie? Or the court?
The court clerk, they'll send them the paper.
Okay, call the court clerk. It's been requested that you call 3 months in advance to get the paperwork taken care of. Because the public guardian has a lot of work to do. And if you wait till the last minute, like the last 2 weeks or something, that's really inconsiderate to them. So mark it on your calendars, call the court clerk, get the paperwork, and start the petition for reappointment for conservator early. The doctor must sign off that the person is still considered gravely disabled. Now that part where it says, but if somebody else provides the food, clothing, and shelter, they're not considered gravely disabled. Don't worry about that part anymore. Just the part where they cannot provide for their food, clothing, or shelter. That's all. Okay?
Gail, can I say something quickly?
Yes.
For the past 2 years, I was assigned an attorney, me as the conservator, who did most of the work, who wrote the letters. So I know, and I would take it that everybody else is aware of that also, right? That the court is now giving us the conservator's attorneys, and it's
you have to request it. You have to request when you're in court to be assigned an attorney. Yes, and once you request it, they assign an attorney, and you can call and ask the attorney if you have questions along the way. The attorneys are very helpful. If you have trouble with Social Security, the reappointment, anything, they help you along the way.
And they sent out letters, and they actually contacted me with this. And as far as contacting them, they contacted me for the second year. So that's quite
They should, but if they don't, be sure that you take care of it. Okay? All right. Next slide. Another one for you, Maureen. Renewal of the conservatorship started 3 months early. You need the doctor's declaration stating the person is gravely disabled. We pretty much already said that. Next slide. Gravely disabled basic means the food, shelter, or clothing. So, and refer to everything as safety or a health risk. That will help you to be able to establish gravely disabled. Connie Draxler had a case where they went to court and the young man said, I can get a tent from the city. I can go live on such and such street. I can eat 5 times a day at the food banks, and I can get all the clothes I want at Salvation Army, which was true. But if somebody who had been there, who knew him, could say, yes, he can get the tent and go live on the street at such and such, but he's either victimizing people or they're victimizing him. He's not safe. He can eat the food, all the food he wants at the food bank, but he's lost significant weight from not eating due to paranoia of food or whatever. Clothing, he can go to the Salvation Army and get the clothes, but he wears his clothes for excessive periods of time, causing bacteria buildup, or he takes his clothes off at inappropriate times and places, or maybe he dresses inappropriate for the weather. It's hot, he's got a sweater, sweatshirt, hood. That's all gravely disabled, and that's safety and health risk. And the court will look at that very seriously. Okay, next slide. Jim?
Well, yeah.
You and me, Marie.
This will be for all of us to jump in on, including Marie, but the conservators court renewal court hearing. During that process, the court hearing, the judge will decide whether the conservatorship will continue on or not, or it could shift over if the conservator were to request the jury trial, then they would decide whether the renewal of conservatorship would be granted in a case like that. So it's really important that you prepare for this kind of meeting, talk with whatever attorney you have lined yourself up with, that the court has provided, or your own private attorney, and go in prepared. Gail, I know that you have a lot to say about this one as well.
I think Marie probably has more. Marie, you want to comment?
First thing I always say, always attend your hearing. Even if it's on team, because you never know what may happen in the courtroom. Your loved one may say that they don't want to challenge the conservatorship, but you never know what happens after they speak to this.
Okay, hold on. I can only remember so much at a time. She's going on. She's saying whatever you do, attend the court hearing. Always attend the court hearing. Even if the attorney says you don't have to be there, because you never know what's going to happen in the court. And even if it's the WebEx, be sure you're at that court hearing. That is really important. Too many things can happen at the court at that time. For instance, like that young man, he could say, yeah, I'm going to do the conservatorship, gets there and says, I don't think so, and present what he wanted to. But if the conservator was there, the conservator could counteract his request. Okay, go on, Marie.
And the other thing is, remember, the public defender is not there for the client's best interest per se. It just want to represent what the client says, no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, remember that public defender is not your friend. He's not there for the best interest of your client. He is there to represent your client and do whatever that client wants him to do. So keep that in mind, because a lot of people, oh, the public defender's so nice, but then they got up on court and they were so nasty. That is their job, okay? All right, go ahead.
Oh, and again, basically, just make sure you attend every hearing, no matter what.
Be sure you attend every hearing, no matter what. Okay?
Okay.
And then, Jim, you mentioned the court hearing and the jury trial, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and that jury trial is scary because you have to have 12 people decide. As a conservator, you're looking and you're helping to pick out the jury, and that is a tough thing to do. But you can pretty much eliminate the ones that have the piercings all over, the spiked hair, all the strange characters. You can kind of take care of those and try for some others. Okay. Next slide. Ah, my favorite. Jim, this is ours.
I know. This is the California Welfare and Institutions Code 5358.5. So as conservator, you have the right to hospitalize your loved one when you deem necessary. It's been very interesting to me. Even though I have the right to have my conservatee placed into the hospital for treatment, if I feel that my conservatee is destabilized and is psychotic, or maybe he's talking to himself and he's seeing things, I can have him hospitalized. And I've discussed this with an attorney. Ultimately what he's saying is, how do you get your conservatee there if they don't want to go? So then, of course, we're going to call the CAT team. Here in Orange County, we now call the OC links, and they would send out someone to do an evaluation. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, why do we need an evaluation? I have the right to put them there. Well, if here in Orange County, they feel if they are going to be involved in putting somebody into a locked facility, that they still need to do an assessment to protect themselves legally. But they assure me that they will honor the conservator's wishes. So it says, do not wait for the person to decompensate to harm themselves or others. Absolutely, you don't want to let your conservatee just go to where they're getting so sick that they end up cutting themselves or doing anything to harm themselves or go out and fight the neighbors, that type of thing. Nub it in the quick. There were others that, years ago they'd say, well, this isn't right. I mean, the conservatives are going to put the conservators will put the conservatives into the hospital so they can take off for the weekend and go have a good time. Well, if you're going to, as a conservator, tell people that your conservatee is needing to go in the hospital and why, you better be telling the truth, because if you're fabricating information just to get him in or her in there, you can be held liable for that. So this rest of it, I'm going to turn over to Gail.
Okay. Orange County, remember the laws are the same, but how they implement the laws can be a little bit different from county to county. We are most fortunate in Los Angeles because our Department of Mental Health understands the laws. And we brought this to Dr. Curly Bonds, who's, I don't know what his title is, but he's way high up under Dr. Sharon. And the law is, the conservator, when they deem it's necessary to put the conservatee in the hospital, they can do it. The court has ruled that the person is gravely disabled. Nobody can unrule that unless they go to court and have that changed. Otherwise, that's contempt of court. So we have a contact with Marion Brown. I talked to Dr. Curly Bonds, and I asked him for a contact for LA, and he says, I'm not going to give you a contact. He said, Los Angeles is very large, and you have Antelope Valley. If the contact's down there and you have South Bay, that's a long distance to go. So he gave us his contact of Marion Brown, who is a deputy for emergency outreach and triage. She has people all assigned all over LA who is very familiar with this law, and they can go out there and they can get the person, put them in the hospital. I mean, right away. They go off their meds. Don't wait for them to decompensate. You've tried to get them on their meds, a week's gone by, and you see them start to go down. Call Marion Brown. have her come and put them in the hospital. You deem they need to go in the hospital. Do not wait for them to decompensate, because the court has given you that responsibility to keep your loved one in a forward motion of recovery. Now, when they get to the hospital, that's a different story, because the doctor might say, well, they don't meet the criteria. In essence, they might, if they're going within a week, it might be because they've gone off their medication. So when they walk through the hospital doors, hey, pop a pill in them, give them the shot, whatever they're supposed to have, they're good to go. You do that once, maybe twice. We've never had to have it twice. They get the message, I have to take my medication. It's a done deal. And they stay on their medication, and that really helps. But that's the reason, if they start to go off their medication, I don't have to take this, I don't need it. You use that California Welfare Institutions Code 5358, and it's written in that booklet, that LPS paper that you have. It is written in there. So if you know the laws, you can request that the laws be honored. And if you're in Los Angeles, just contact Marion Brown. You can contact me if you're having trouble, and we will get it done. And we've gotten it done. I mean, a week a person's gone off their meds. They needed to go to the hospital to get them started, jump started again. Because remember, the hospital is the only place that you can really force the meds. They went, got the medication, and they're good to go. The longer you wait, the longer they will have to stay in the hospital, because they've decompensated.
Gail,
So
who
you
shows
want
up
them
at-
to go quick.
Gail,
Pardon?
who shows up there to take your loved one away? To the police?
Marion Brown has it all coordinated, and she will send the people out for whichever area it's in, whichever district. They will go out, they do the outreach and triage, they go out, they pick up your loved one. Now, we do have a problem, because the police, if your loved one doesn't want to go, and they're not going to get on the gurney or in the back of the police car, the police are tending not to want to put their hands on people. So sometimes think of bribery, if you can, a little bribery or something like that. Anything that it takes to go and get that medication in them. Once you've got the medication, they're thinking a lot more clearly, hopefully. And then you can go from there. But work with Marion Brown for who's going to go and get them in the hospital. Okay? And it could be, she could have a special group that goes out there, depending on what part of LA they're in. Marie, you want to add anything?
No, I mean, sometimes what we do as well, if we know we're gonna need the assistance of police, we'll watch Commander first, and we let them know that with the Lps Conservator, send them a copy of our letter, so that when the police comes out and meet us, there's no issue that this person is not meeting criteria.
Right. That's what we were doing. And Marie was saying to talk to the watch commander at the police department, give them a copy of the law, copy of your request, written request, and a copy of the conservatorship. We were doing that for a long time, but you had to keep educating the cops, and they're not lawyers. They're not expected to know every law. So this does help. But hold on. Okay, but now that's okay. Now we have Marion Brown, who's very aware of this. But once it comes to the weekend, don't plan on calling her on the weekend. Call people during the week. I mean, I have people call me, they're releasing their loved one from the hospital an hour before they're being released, and it's a Friday night. I mean, I can't help at that point. Why didn't you call when you knew this 2 days ago? So think about when you need the help, call. I will do everything to help you if you call me. And on this part, this is the key to LPS, mandated medication. And if you need that Welfare and Institutions Code, call, pull it on them, then do it. If they go back to taking drugs, they might have to spend a little time in the hospital, but utilize that law when needed. That's a powerful law. And in Los Angeles, they understand. DMH has taken it to their attorneys, and they agreed with everything that we were saying, that you have that right. Okay, and Any questions? Anybody? Well, we'll wait for questions till after. Marie, you want to add anything else? Okay, Jim?
No, just that actually, as stated at the beginning, please hold your questions to the end and you can type them into the chat box. Thank you.
Okay, next.
Okay, so let's say that your loved one decides to, let's see here.
Oh, that's,
What happened to the AWOL one? Can you go back one? 41? What was that?
no, go forward.
Go forward then.
There you go.
There it is. Okay, so your conservator takes off. There are, seems to be some nature of a mental health condition in some people that they just feel compelled that they have to take off. And some will take off and maybe go halfway up the state or all the way north to, up through the state of California, hitchhiking, however they can get up there. Sometimes they go all over the country. So, what are you going to do? You're going to immediately call the police department where your conservatee is living, and you're going to file a missing persons report. You want to let them know that your loved one is disabled, that they have a mental health condition, a serious mental health condition, and with that we need a missing persons report to be filed. By law, that because they are disabled, they meet that criteria, I should say. Doesn't mean that they're not really smart, but they are obligated by law then to file a missing persons report. So give a copy of your conservatorship papers to the police. Any person with a serious mental illness goes to the top of the missing persons list under missing children. As a dependent adult, does not need to be filed under conservatorship. So primarily, there's a case where a mother in Arizona had called me and reported that she felt that she has some information that her son was out here around the Disneyland area. And she, in fact, tried to file a missing persons report with the Anaheim PD, and they refused to do it because they were adamant that she had to come in person to file it. And that's just not true at all. In fact, I contacted Chief of Police in Tustin at that time that I had a working relationship with, and they contacted the police department and straightened that all out like pronto. So absolutely, you want to file a report. I hate to say it, but it's really prudent to keep some DNA on your loved ones. Maybe you can go to their hairbrush or something and pull some hair out and so forth, because if they were to ever end up missing and deceased, this is going to be the only way you're going to get closure on that. There are, according to the outpostforhope.org, which you see listed at the bottom of the slide, there's literally tens of thousands of people that are Jane and John Does put into graveyards across the nation. Nobody knows who they were. Many of those are persons that had a mental health condition. They basically just never surface, and the family never has closure. On the Outpost for Hope, they're going to really give you some incredible, wonderful, good information on every step and procedure that you need to take, and what your legal rights are to initiate that. So write that down, take advantage of it. They're going to instruct you on what to do. And I will close my remarks on this by saying that both Gail and I have been involved with people who have taken off. They often call them frequent flyers because they just take off and they go. Some have ended up in Australia. Their son, who was very smart and so forth, had access to a credit card, and he had been an avid surfer all his life, and he loved to compete. And he would watch the weather results, and when he knew there were going to be big waves someplace in the world, he'd want to go there. So after their loved one had been missing for some time, the family received a phone call and said, "Do you have a son named so and so?" "Yes, we do, but he's here with us." "Well, where are you?" "Well, we're and they just freaked out. "What do you mean? He's in your country?" So, absolutely, you want to take every step that you can. Of course, the dad was really cool. He flew back to Australia and went surfing with his son before he got him back home again. They used to surf together. So, it just goes with the territory. But you want to take it seriously. The minute, I've been in situations where, oh my gosh, where did he go? And he's been missing for 15 minutes. And we were not in our home. I immediately called the missing persons report, and within 15 minutes, they found him because I had called immediately. They immediately notified through the radio systems to watch out for our son, how he was, or she, in your case, maybe it's a she, how they're dressed and so forth. And they will go out of their way to find them immediately. There's no waiting. So, Gail, you certainly have some things you might want to say about this for sure. Go ahead.
I do. I do. On that DNA, when you get DNA, if it's moisture DNA, like a mouth swab or something like that, don't put it in a Ziploc and close it up, because that will create a bacteria, a mold, that sort of thing. You can put it in an envelope, an unsealed envelope, paper envelope, so it will dry out. That's a better way to go. But if you can get DNA, always have, and you should have DNA on everybody in your family. Just kind of keep it, somewhere. The other thing is, if your loved one's missing in town and they're downtown, like Malibu or a certain place in Orange County or wherever, you can actually go down there, take a picture of your loved one, and walk where, but be sure you're safe. Walk where the police are and the homeless are, and ask somebody, have you seen this person? Ask the police if they've seen that person. Homeless people want to be very helpful many times. Now, don't ask the fellow who's talking to himself, because that may not be very helpful, but they will tell you exactly where a person is. They know everybody on the street. Somebody new comes on the street, they know. They will help you to find that person. And I've had people fly in from out of town. They know their loved ones in LA or someplace, and go down there, and sure enough, they find them. And now we have to get them in the hospital, because they're not going to go with mom and dad, or they're not. Tell mom and dad, keep a distance. Don't let them know you're there. Watch when they jaywalk, call the police. That's harm to self. Guess what? That's a trip to the hospital. So watch for them to do something that can get them in the hospital. Don't run up and say, I'm here. They're going to take off again. Now you've got another missing person. So be a little bit cautious, be careful. But many times you can find your own loved one if you know where they are. Marie, you want to add anything?
I wanted to add that if your loved one's in a facility, it's the facility's responsibility to file the missing persons report. And also, don't skip getting that report done, because a lot of times, if your loved one winds up in the hospital or in jail, they can locate that. They can locate them.
Okay, Marie said, if they're in a facility and be sure the facility is supposed to file the missing persons report, but sometimes that doesn't always happen, and you have to do it. Sometimes they'll call you a week later and say, oh, they haven't been here, which is unfortunate, but it does happen. But also, the missing persons report can help you find them, especially if they're in jail. They check that every day. I don't think they can check the hospitals, though, Marie.
Well, if they come in at the John Doe, typically the hospital is supposed to check missing persons report.
Oh, she said if they come in as a John Doe to the hospital will check the missing persons report. So that would help too. But file those missing persons report and take pictures. If you have a picture before they were ill and after, they look very different. Sometimes you go from like the clean haircut, the shaved beard and all, to the hair that's like, down to their shoulder or beyond the beard. I mean, everything. So be sure you're taking pictures. And sometimes you have to take family pictures, because if you say, I'm going to take a picture of you, they don't want that. But come pose with the family, and then you can dub them out. Okay? All right, next slide.
So if your loved one's on a conservatorship and they are thinking about leaving the state of California on a vacation, or they're just taking off on their own, know that the LPS conservatorship laws are very specific, just for the state of California only. So if they're going to leave and they absolutely, maybe it's Christmas or something and you're going to go out of state, they must have the court's permission to leave the state. You can't just leave. So get permission from the courts. And then also, it says California presently does not have reciprocity with other states, and which means that other states will not work with us in helping us to get them back. So Gail has more information on this than I do on the reciprocity with other states than I do. So I'll let you finish on that last sentence.
I just found on the East Coast, those states tend to have reciprocity with other states. So if you have a missing person who's mentally ill in another state, for instance, if they go from Florida to Virginia, Ohio, Georgia, they work hard to get them back. When you're in California, California doesn't do that, which is unfortunate, but sometimes you can still work. I mean, we've worked to get like somebody who was in Louisiana and New Orleans in the hospital. We got that person back to California. Just if you're putting them on a plane, be sure they have an escort and they're well drugged so that they don't act strange on the plane. Okay, next slide. Or Marie, did you want to add anything?
No, if you have to give the court a plan to leave the state, you basically need to know where they're going, why they're going, so that minister bed, and if you have a plan, an emergency plan.
Okay.
So that's basically what the court looks for.
Okay, Marie says if you're getting permission from the court for them to leave the state, you have to have an emergency plan. If something should happen, what are you going to do? Who's going to administer the medication, where they're going, what they're going to be doing, what else?
And basically when they're coming back.
And when they're coming back, just your basic information. But the court wants to know that. That's assuming they're going with permission, like to a treatment facility or something.
Correct.
Okay? All right, next slide. Oh, this is you, Marie. Thank you for your determination and endurance to help your loved one. Hey, folks, let me tell you, y'all are tough. You really are, and you're so determined. Your loved ones are so blessed that you care that much about them. Because look at the people downtown and everywhere. It's not the parents didn't care. It takes a lot to be able to help somebody, and I don't have to tell any of you all that. But you really are very tough. You have a lot more determination and strength than what you think you have. The Navy SEAL team's model is when they are exhausted, they can still give 10% more, and they do. But they haven't walked our roads, so they don't know what that 10% more is. It is rough.
Amen.
It really keep strong. Take care of yourself. You are your loved one's strongest chance for them to be put in recovery, for them to gain recovery. Without you, the probability decreases significantly. So hang in there, take care of yourself. At night when you think, I've had enough, I can't do this, I'm ready to walk away, watch a funny movie, have a glass of wine or a cup of tea, relax, it's your time, take a bubble bath, whatever it takes, get some sleep. You'll be ready to go to battle the next day again. But take care of yourself. That is so important. Anything you want to add, Marie?
On behalf of Public Guardian, if you ever call, you can reach out to us, we will assist you any way that you can. And also, I wanted to give my phone number, just in case anybody has
Yes.
questions.
Yes. Oh, hold on. Marie said, if you have, you're welcome to call Public Guardian and call Marie. She's awesome. She really is. And they will do their best to help you with everything. And she wants to give you her new number, and I'm grabbing something to write it on. Okay. This is Marie Gullum, Gullaume. Did I do that right? Okay. And the number? 213 947 6822. Okay, she says if you don't get her, leave a message, and she does return all of her calls. Can you give me that number again? 213 947 6822. Okie doke. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Next slide.
I just wanted to add that there's a, if you think about being on an airplane with a young child, and all of a sudden the cabin depressurizes and the pilot's trying to bring the plane down as quickly as possible, that you may run out of oxygen before he can do that. So all the oxygen masks are falling, and your instinct is to put your own oxygen mask on and then put it on this child next to you. Or I said it wrong. The instinct is to put it on the child first, and the right thing to do is to put it on yourself first, because if you pass out, then you're not going to have the opportunity to help the child get his mask on or her mask on. And so, that being said, here in Orange County, we just had a conservatorship co-occurring, or not a conservatorship, but a co-occurring meeting, and we focused on ways that one could provide care to themselves. So get help. If you're falling apart and you just can't handle this anymore, and you're the conservator, you're not going to be able to handle or be there for your loved one in the way that you should be. So, a hot bath, new hairdo, go out and get a new purse, take a little mini vacation, look for fun things to do. Just, keep yourself pumped up and get counseling if you need it. But do whatever you can to stay up. It's just critically important. Thank you. Next slide. So I'll just go ahead and read this one out. We want to thank everybody today for attending today's presentation. This takes a lot of work by NAMI Urban Los Angeles, and they have to bring in people on their days off and so forth. It does cost extra funding to make it all happen. And, so while we can ask for, or we want to ask for a donation, if you're not in a financial way to make any kind of donation, we don't want you to. But if you can, please, send money to NAMI Urban LA. This is their address. If you don't get a chance to write this down, you can just Google NAMI Urban Los Angeles and go to their website, and their address is there as well. But make a donation and mark your donation as being for the LPS Conservatorship program. And if I'm not mistaken, I know when I joined NAMI Los Angeles, I simply went to their website and I joined NAMI and paid the NAMI fees, which included the state level as well at that time. And I did all that by credit card. So you might want to look at their website also while you're there getting the address, and just see if you can make a donation by credit card right there on their website. But if not, please send a check in to this address that you're seeing on your screen, and it would be very immensely appreciated. It helps these meetings to continue going. Thank you for coming. Gail and I will be available to you if you have any questions. Don't hesitate to call us. I'm in Orange County. I have a lot of resources. I have attorneys here in Orange County that I refer people to. I don't take any kickbacks, or I don't benefit in any way from that, other than just the pleasure of being able to help people plug into really good attorneys. So we're going to, I think, open up this meeting at this time to Q&A, and let's check in.
If you have a question for Marie and you ask it, then I'll do it on the phone and go back. We just had trouble getting her on the Zoom today. For some reason, we've had problems
Stopped.
with Zoom. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So I was asking you before, when you call that number, Miriam Brown, do the police come with them?
It depends on what they need, and Miriam will take care of it. She'll coordinate the whole packet.
Yeah, 'cause
So if you
I'm
need
getting
it,
very close to doing that soon with my son. So,
oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Mitch, because he's been doing so well.
yeah, we
Don't wait. If he's gone off his medicine, don't wait. The court said he's gravely disabled. It's a done deal.
Right.
You know, so, and once he goes in the door, if you go quickly, it's usually pop a pill and he's done. Otherwise, he may have a little R&R for the weekend or something.
Yeah, there was a term the psychiatrist used, I can't remember, when the patient is hospitalized, they get this turnaround real quick because they see it as a serious matter, right?
Mhm.
Right. Some kind of a wake-up call.
Yeah, I think so. I think it usually does. So, and we don't have to do this too often, but when you do, you usually just do it once and that's about it. Okay?
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hi.
Hi, I'm just trying to soak it all up, and it's so timely. I've just got the court date for Toby. This will be his 11th year of reappointment, and I've been doing the paperwork forever and going to be there by webinar. But this last week, I got the notice to sign for discharge to the enriched residential services. He was in Metropolitan for 5 years and had some passes where I was able to take him out. But since he's been in the IMD, Ala Vista, he has not, it's COVID, but he was there a year before the COVID shutdown, and he never seems to participate enough to earn a pass off site. And as far as I know, they don't even take them out. As far as I know, I've never been notified of any outings, especially these last 2 years. He's been there a little over 3 years. And so I have concerns. I'm trying to find out where these facilities are to get information about them, but I don't have that information. And I guess I'm waiting for the Department of Mental Health to contact me with recommended facilities. And
Irene, you can contact ICD, send them a copy of your conservatorship, and ask them what facilities they're planning on using. Sometimes it's not good to sit and wait for them to call because you kind of get to the bottom of the barrel. It's better to take the initiative and call them. Marie, you have anything you want to add on this?
ICD, how do I contact ICD?
Right. It's in the back of that LPS paper. It's the whole resource numbers. All the numbers you'll need are in the back of that LPS. In fact, you should probably update your LPS paper. Can you send me an email and just put resend LPS? I'll send it to you.
Resend LPS, okay.
Okay, all right. Marie, you wanted to add something?
When they have a bed, you don't know where they're gonna go. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Yes, she says contact ICD. You don't want to wait till the last minute because as soon as they get a bed, they will let you know. But it's that squeaky wheel that gets the oil. So you definitely want to get on it and keep on them. Call them every 7 to 10 days. They'll get so tired of you, they'll get him a bed just to get rid of you.
Okay, but like I said, I'm concerned because he's been in LAC facilities over 10 years. He did get a few passes during his stay at Metropolitan. For a few hours, I could take him out.
And he did well?
Oh, he did fine when we go out to eat. He's lovely.
I think you're gonna be fine. I really do. I think he's gonna appreciate it. And that enhanced residential housing,
Yes.
he'll check in and out and he will start to get confidence that he's getting somewhere. So you're gonna be fine. Yes, go ahead, Marie. Oh, Marie says, ask ICD for a list of facilities, and you can Google them and you can go tour them too. Some are better than others. Have your questions to ask.
Yeah, because he has dual diagnosis and he's been in secure locked facilities for over 10 years.
Oh yeah, it's definitely time to give them a life. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. Other questions? No
Hi,
questions?
Gail. No, I've got a couple. This is Monica.
Wait, Monica from Africa?
That's the one, yeah.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
actually
I
in
see what you
California.
look like.
So I got back to California earlier this month and did succeed in getting conservatorship of my brother transferred over.
Congratulations. Great work.
I think so. So two questions. One was just, so, you know, we were at the hearing and we got the minute order. But the public guardian who used to be the conservator just sent us this letter yesterday about that the conservatorship is terminated. But instead of, there's another box that says a successor conservator was appointed, please contact them. So they sent out to all the persons of interest, they sent out this letter saying it had been terminated rather than the successor conservator is appointed. Have you ever heard of that happening before?
Marie, did you hear what she said?
Yes, we received was a no interest letter, and they should have all checked that the successor has been appointed. On that letter, there is two options of terminated or successor.
Okay.
They should be checked successor.
Okay, everything on that letter should be checked successor.
Yeah, there is an option for checking, but it's not checked successor. Instead,
They said it's not checked successor. It's
no, there's
checked
only the top option that says
Check.
it's terminated.
Marie, you want me to have her call you Tuesday? Oh, okay. Oh, call her Tuesday. She'll take care of it, okay?
Okay.
By the way, I have to let everybody know, Monica works in Africa, and I've worked with her for some time. She invited me to come to Africa to go play with the gorillas. Nice, Marie says.
And anybody is welcome. Just visit Rwanda is the hashtag. But the other question, Gail, I had for you is earlier you were talking about a lady named Catherine, and to call her. Could you remind me when to call her, and is her contacts in the back of that LPS manual?
I'm not sure I recall what it was, but it had to be something with insurance, I'm sure. And her number is in the back of that LPS packet under the attorneys.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. It's good to see who I've been talking with all these years. Okay. Other questions?
Okay,
Hi, my name is. Who wants to go first?
Can I?
Okay.
Hi, my name is Diana, and I just speak Spanish, but I'm trying to get much as I can in English. And I'm the conservator of my son, and my son has been in the hospital almost for 8 months. And I tried to talk to the doctor, but the doctor refused to talk to me. And I don't see any improvement on my son. So I just wonder, what can I do? Or how can I get a lawyer to help me with all these things? This is my first time in conservatorship. I've been in the couple times with you guys, listening, and I still learning more. But the conservatorship is gonna be ended in the September. So I'm afraid that I don't know how to go even to the process and how to help my son to get out from the hospital and go to the IMD. And I tried to talk to the doctor about the medication too. And they said they don't have too many medication, or my son cannot be,
What
I don't know if
hospital?
the insurance approve it. He's
What
in,
hospital?
Barbara Aarons in Santa Clara County.
Oh, Santa Clara County.
Barbara,
Oh, that's a
yes.
different story because people don't always follow the law. You do have a right to know what medication he's on. The social worker might be able to help you with that. I would contact behavioral health and I would I would go straight on up the line. When people are saying, well, there's nothing we can do, I need to speak to your supervisor, and keep going right on up. Probably I'd talk to the medical director of behavioral health or whatever, somebody who has a title similar to that, and tell them the doctor's refusing to talk with you. Remember the law 5328 that was shown on this paper? It's also in that packet, that LPS conservatorship packet.
Mhm.
That doctor has to communicate with you pertaining to your son. So this is the one,
Okay.
Marie, how about if she gives you a call on Tuesday?
Okay.
Okay,
Kind of find out, who's open in Santa Clara.
okay. Marie's going to find out who's in Santa Clara over their program, and she'll try to help you with that. Give her a call on Tuesday. She gave you the number to call, and you can also call me if you would like. I'll do my best to see if we can get some changes, because he's in a holding cell. You want him on the road to recovery, and as conservator, you have that right. Okay? But I'm not sure how their programs work. But we'll do our best to see what we can do to help you. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Other questions?
Oh,
Questions for Jim. We don't want Jim to feel left out here.
No. Don't put me on the spot.
Is that it on questions?
Gail, I have a comment. A couple years ago, my son, this was his renewal was done without him, and I showed up at the Hollywood court, and the public defender couldn't get an agreement from my son. So this other public defender got him on the phone and talked to me for 1 minute and said, listen, man, your father's a great guy. You have your own bedroom. I don't know why you're giving me a problem. This would be the best thing for you. And I'm looking at this guy, selling me. And my son says, well, maybe. And the public defender says, not maybe. Yes, you should say yes. You should say yes to me right now so that we can continue your conservatorship and your life can be beautiful and improve. And you've got the greatest dad. And my son says yes. And I look at this guy and I said, the gods must have sent you. And you're a public defender? He says, well, there's a few good ones of us. But I forget his name. He's a big Italian guy. But
That was great. That's a good story.
He was the best, I tell you.
You were fortunate. Not everybody's that way, but it's unfortunate that they're not, because they really should be looking at, do they meet the criteria for gravely disabled? And sometimes they just don't. They look at other things. Okay, great.
Thank you, Gail.
Other questions?
Yeah, we have Lee Holliner, is it? It's been
Yeah.
waiting some time with the hand up.
no, that's fine. So I have two questions. One, what do we do if we were told, by the public guardian that we can't attend the hearing if the conservative, they say if the conservative objects to family, being there, then we can't come and testify about, needing to continue establishing, for reappointment.
Are you the conservator?
I was petitioning to be the conservator, so I got it, but I have another relative, who's trying to get conservatorship, and they were told, that for the Pecan hearing, the first hearing, that if the conservatee didn't want them to be didn't want them to be testifying, then they weren't allowed.
Wait, the TCON, the public guardian,
No, the
is the
PCON.
conservator when they're TCON.
No, yeah, for the
But you
PCON
said
hearing.
that you are his conservatee.
I'm a conservator for someone else, but I'm saying I have a relative who has someone whose son is trying to, they're trying to get them on conservatorship because they need help, and they were asking me questions because I've been through the process, and then they said the public guardian told them they cannot come to the hearing because you guys were saying earlier, come to the hearings if you can because stuff can change last minute. They said they were not allowed at the hearing because the conservatee explicitly said I don't want anyone else there.
If the person is not the conservator and it's just a court hearing, the person with the mental illness diagnosis has the right, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marie, to say who can be in that court hearing. Now, if they're testifying, they won't listen to the whole court hearing, but they can be called in to testify, and then they would have to leave again. Is that correct?
Right, and also you can.
Also, hold on.
They may not call on you at all.
You can also, but if the person to be conserved says he doesn't want them in the room, then the judge has to honor that. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
The judge controls part of the hearing, yes. It's up to the judge, not the public guardian.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the patient. It's not up to the patient, or is it?
Not necessarily. It depends on the case itself. It's case by case. The judge will ultimately decide who can be in there.
Okay.
Because I don't know what the case is, and if they need to give testimony or they're just there to observe.
Yeah. Okay, Marie. Don't give me too much information. Slow down. It's the judge that decides who will be in there, and it's case by case. If they're going to testify and the patient doesn't want them in there, but they want to testify and the county council wants them there, then the judge can rule that the person can be there. If they're just going to be there to observe, then the judge can say no. If he doesn't want them there, the judge can make them leave.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. And then two things. One, ask her, let her know if Patsy G. Ward is there. Tell her she's doing an amazing job. She's a public defender for the mental health court. I know her personally, so I think she's doing a great job out there. And then, crap. Do you mind, can someone ask Connie to please email a link to the right letters of conservatorship? We keep on having issues with people, like the ones online not being the right ones for parents to use as they're filling out, to be private conservator.
Oh, all right. She's saying the letters online are not always the right letters for the conservator to be appointed.
Well, like, you say for the IMDs and for any, we have to present our letters and orders of conservatorship. And when I asked Connie, like, twice, she said, no, those are not the right forms, but she never got around to sending me what the right mental health 027 form is.
And the form is to go to an IMD?
No, it's just when you go to an IMD, when you're private conservator, you have to present your letters and orders, right, for the IMD to honor your request.
Oh, for you, your conservatorship papers, that you get from the court. Is that correct, Marie?
Why are they online then?
Call the court clerk. You should be getting a packet of what you've signed, if you're the conservator, from the court clerk. That would not be from Connie. That would be from the court clerk. And they will give you a letter that basically, and you have to pay about, is it $35 or is it gone up? Marie, do you know?
You know what? I'm not sure because they've taken away our access to the
Oh. Oh, okay. It might be, take cash, because they want cash, about maybe $50 or maybe a little bit more to be sure that you need the original paper stating that you're the conservatorship with the powers. You want a copy of those powers. And call the court clerk, I'll go pick them up, and get those papers right away. Those are the papers that the IMDs, treatment facilities, that they would like to see. Give them a copy. Don't give them the original because they get a little bit expensive for those originals. Okay?
Okay.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, I sent you a PM basically showing you the forms and kind of saying, okay, I understand what you're saying. Just, why are the other forms online? Because a lot of parents are going to go to those when they're filling out, that's all. So,
Okay, all right, I'll look at those.
thank you.
All right, sure.
Okay.
Other questions?
Angel Delgado's been waiting for a long time with her hand up.
Okay. Angel?
Can you hear us? Well, her hand is up, but she evidently is not hearing us. She's not coming forth with a question. We'll come back to her. Leah, I guess, had a second question to ask, and maybe it's not fair to ask second questions, but
Oh, they're on mute now. Angel?
Angel is on.
Do they have a headset connected? They're unmuted, but we cannot hear you at all. Okay.
Marie says type it in the chat if we can't hear her.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions in the chat.
There's a lot in the chat. Is that 53 questions in the chat? Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, it's quite a few.
Oof. I'm learning about this chat. All right. Any other questions?
Wait, quick question. Are you guys allowed to disclose which lawyers you know? Like if I say, do you guys know Lee Blumen? Would you be allowed to say that? Because Jim said he knew some lawyers in Orange County.
I don't know Jim Blumen.
No, Jim. Oh, Jim said he knew lawyers in Orange County, so I was just asking him, does he know Lee Blumen?
Yes, he knows me. I know him.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Whoa, there are a lot of questions in that. Okay, are we have we covered everybody?
No, I mean, I guess Angel just is not able to get her speaker to work. We have a lot of questions over in the chat that we should look at as well. Can you start there in the chat room and go from there, Gail?
Oh, me? Oh, you're asking me to coordinate this? I have no clue what I'm doing.
Okay, maybe I'll just jump in here. Well, somebody had asked how to reinstate a California ID that expired during 10 years in a locked facility. I guess their loved one had been in a locked facility for 10 years, and I have no idea how you would reinstate a California ID unless they could go in themselves to do that. I don't know. Do you know, Gail?
I do. Actually, what you do is the IMD can contact Department of Mental Health. They will send somebody directly to the IMD with a camera. They'll take a picture and they will give them their ID, their California ID. So they can go straight to the facility. They do it at hospitals and IMDs.
Okay.
Okay?
Then there's a question down here. They're asking you personal information. They wanted you to name the agency that evaluated your loved one.
Asking me?
Yeah, it says Gail. What is the mistyped name of the agency that evaluated your loved one? That would be the CAT team.
Well, CAT for Orange County, but it could be the Met. It could be the what are some of the ones that they have in LA, Murray? Access would be a good place to call, and then they will send it out to whoever covers whatever areas, because they have SMART, Met. They have a pet, don't they? Still have a pet? And they have different titles for different groups. I like the SMART team because it's usually the police and a social worker that will evaluate the person. That's for 5150 hold. Okay?
Okay. Christopher Luna wrote a question. I have a question regarding the declaration of service from which it is required to mail, snail mail, or hand deliver to the appropriate recipients. I wanted to email the declaration of service form to a couple of recipients. Do I have to use another form such as proof of service by email, also known as proof of electronic service.
You're talking about the DD 214?
Beats me.
It's showing that they had military service?
I don't know.
I'm not sure what they're talking about. And what it would be for, but the VA should be able to help you with anything pertaining to the VA, including housing. They have fairly good housing that helps a person get on the road to recovery. And I believe their housing is in Orange County.
Can I
So if
interrupt?
Yes.
Because Christopher and I are co-conservators for my sister. He's talking about the application for reappointment. We have to send a letter to everyone letting them know that this is in the process. So the declaration of service is that we're sending it to the place where she lives, to public defender, to mental health department, whoever. And there's about 6 people on there. That's what he's talking about. He wants to know if he can email it because we have the email for a couple of people, or does it have to go snail mail, and I don't know how you show proof actually.
Basically what if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm not right on this, she's showing proof of mental health services wherever the person's getting treatment. But does she have to can she send that email, or does she have to send it by the regular U.S. Postal Service? Does it?
Just contact the court clerk and they'll tell her
Okay, she said contact the court clerk and they will tell you what kind of services they will accept. Okay, so call the court clerk. Oh, Marie, what would we do without you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Susan, close to everybody. Some hospitals no longer do LPS conservatorships. Is there a list of the hospitals that do LPS conservatorships? So if somebody is put on hold, they may be directed to a hospital where they can be conserved. My son is conserved, but I work with some homeless individuals that have been present for 5150 calls. I'd like to suggest to the police for it to send them where they could possibly be conserved. That would be any designated hospital.
But not all of them will do it, Marie.
And not all of them will do it, is right.
Yeah. They're getting paid to be, the hospitals are getting, I didn't know that, getting paid to be a designated LPS conservatorship hospital. This is a pet peeve of mine because DMH should push those hospitals to do the LPSs when they meet the criteria, and they don't. And it really irks me that they allow them to recycle the people constantly, because they do. But if you need an LPS, I would try to get them to take them to a county hospital. Augusta Hawkins tends to do LPS. It's not, you still have to fight for everything. That history, symptoms, and gravely disabled will get your foot in the door and they can't close the door on your foot. But that helps tremendously. Augusta Hawkins will tend to do LPSs. County hospitals will tend to do LPSs, and at least DMH has some push in that direction. Private hospitals is a little bit more difficult because they don't have the power for it, but they should if it's a designated facility. So I get really upset that they allow these. Mission is the worst. And whether it's in Orange County, Jim and I talked about it, or LA County, they just say, we don't do them. Well, then why are you an LPS designated facility?
and that's the pet peeve of a lot of our investigators. They're not sending the referral, but yet they're designated. They should lose their designation then.
Yes, they should, because all you're doing is just pushing down the track the people that need the treatment. It's ridiculous. So,
and Dr. Sharon Gale was at one of your meetings, and he intimated that if he heard that a hospital was not providing conservatorships and they were a designated hospital, that they would no longer send patients there.
Well, talk is cheap.
That's what he said. So I'm just.
And I shouldn't be so
just saying.
opinionated. I know.
Okay. Let's
You
see.
didn't hear that, Marie.
I do.
Okay, so